So I think I'm going to follow David's lead here. I'm actually going to tweet and Facebook with no hands. But no, I'm going to use the clock here. And I wasn't on Oprah 4 times, Jenny. I was on 1 time, and she touched my leg, and I fell in love. And $1 billion never felt as good. And when I called her back, the number was disconnected. So if anybody have any inside Oprah connections, please hook me up. I'm sure my wife won't mind, because it's Oprah, right? You know, living and dying in Brick City. Brick City is a moniker, I don't know where that came from. Moniker for Newark, and it's sort of the grit and the grind of growing up. And ironically, thinking of living and dying, the title itself, growing up, I was not too familiar with the word living and what living meant. I saw so much despair and destruction, dilapidation within my community that it was unimaginable for me to think of becoming a doctor, any professional for that matter. And you know, I always did well academically. It was something about school that attracted me. It was something about education that really inspired me. And back then, if that didn't work, spankings was legal. And so, you know, being a child of the 70s, you know what a belt felt like. And so, you know, my mother made sure that I got on board. And she was the first person to teach me about humanity or what humanity was. Because growing up, single parent home, 5 siblings in a 2-bedroom house, you do the math. I didn't have my own room, and I certainly didn't have my own bed. And so she always had an open door policy. Whichever relative, a friend in the neighborhood fell on hard times, she allowed people to come in, eat, sleep, whatever they needed. And so at an early age, I always was taught to give back, to pay it forward, to give something. Even if you don't think you have something to give, we all have something to give in paying it back. So trying to find my way out of no way, you know, I fell into trouble a few times, and I had these other 2 friends, Ramik and George, who I met in high school, and we had a lot in common. And it was just like we wanted to find a way to better our circumstances, and we felt that education would be it. And so we made this pact. We made this promise to become doctors. And so we were dreaming. We were dreaming big. I mean, we weren't talking about going to college. We were thinking medical school. Like, are you kidding me? From where you guys come from, we think that's possible? So we made this promise, and I never forget, I did well in school. I took the entry exam for Seton Hall University, and I went to college campus for the first time. And I got there, and they said, you know, you're going to get cable, you're going to get AC, you're going to get heat. Now, when I grew up, I had AC and heat, but I had AC in the winter and heat in the summer. So they were saying, we're going to switch it around for you. So they had me at that. Then they threw in a meal plan, and I was like, hook and cable? Come on, and my own bed? I was like, I'm not going anywhere, you know, and, you know, so I remember they say, look to your left, look to your right. And they say, one of you guys are not going to be here next semester. I was like, man, they already told me about my phone. I got a phone too, and it's going to work, and I don't have to use a pay phone no more. Please, I'm not going anywhere. Like, don't look at me. I'm good. So, you know, the 4 years of college was by far, and I remember that first year. You know, I tell freshmen this often as I speak across the country, that first year is the most challenging year because you're going through this sort of metamorphosis process in which you're coming into your own. So you're being challenged within yourself. You're being challenged academically, socially. You're trying to fit in. Although college is a great time, I know a lot of people who develop a lot of bad habits that first year. They became the best drinkers, the best smokers, you name it. A lot of bad habits that first year because they're trying to find themselves and they're maybe hanging around that wrong crowd. And it seems like the people who I used to like hanging out with the most when second semester came, they were gone. They were gone. And so the statistics show that 1.2 million high school students drop out a year. 46% college students go all the way to 6 years of college without a degree. Without a degree. So just because you make it to college doesn't mean it's going to work out for you towards the end. So it became imperative to me that I had to become sort of this face for health and education. And I felt that a face, health, and education was important because we glamorize so much more. We glamorize sports. We glamorize music. We glamorize fashion. We know the latest gossip. We know that Kanye and Kim Kardashian had a baby. I mean, we know the latest gossip. And why can't we do the same with education? Make it colorful, make it dynamic, so then our kids can grow up and say, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an architect. And more important than becoming those things, they become leaders, and they bring the passion. They bring the passion behind what they do on a day-to-day basis. So once I got to college, and again, I was sold, I made my way to medical school, and no one told me medical school was going to be so hard and difficult. I thought once I got there, I was like, oh, I made it to medical school. I can just study, and I'm going to get an A on this test. Boy, was I humbled quickly. The first test, I told somebody the story the other day, and I felt maybe I shouldn't have shared this story because I get very personal. But I was like, yeah, I took my first test, and they sort of categorize your grades by the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. So, I'm like, okay, I study hard, so I know I got an 80 plus. So I'm looking from 80 all the way to 100 for my Social Security number and my grade. And so happened my grade wasn't there. And so I was like, okay, it's got to be in the 70s. I know I got 70, 75, 74. It wasn't there. So I scored about a 62 on my first medical exam, and I was destroyed. I felt like quitting. I felt like giving up. And that's when I realized that this is the time where resilience is born. It's not about you flying throughout life and not having challenges. You have to welcome those challenges. You have to welcome those obstacles because that builds character. Quitting is easy, but quitting is something you will remember the rest of your life. Going through challenges and hardships, and once you reach your level of success, think about it. You don't remember the things you've been through and the struggles that you have once you reach that level of success, but if you quit, you remember. So I went and I asked for help. I started to seek out tutoring. I started to make sure I surrounded myself with like-minded people. It's important to be around smart people. It's like osmosis take place. You just start to get smarter. You don't know why. All of a sudden, like pi equals 3.14. You're like, I don't know where that came from. But that's what happens when you're around smart people. So what I sort of impress upon students is that you have to have a positive peer pressure network. You have to be around people who's going to build this character, who's going to build you up. You have to find it within yourself to know who you are. Know who you are. And if people are going to dispel or discourage you and talk about you, let them do what they do. That's what haters do. Let them hate. That doesn't mean you have to fall victim to that. So once I made it through the 4 years of college, it was important, 4 years of medical school, and it was important for me to come back to the same hospital where I was born at North Beth Israel. Where living and dying in Brick City takes place at the same hospital where I was born. And to come back in the same physical form, but with a different mentality. One where I can encourage youth to go out and become something in their life. One, I could go out and say, college is the best thing. I don't care if they call you nerd today, they be calling you boss tomorrow. One, I can go out and say, it's okay to be smart. It's okay to wear your academic excellence in your sleeve and be proud of where you came from and where you come from. But it's also important that you know how to pay it forward, that you know how to give back. And so that's what we're missing. Sometimes I think is this level of humanity, because with that giving back, you start to feel this sort of passion that burns within inside of you. So all of us can grow up to become something, but it's that passion that's going to define you. It's that passion that's going to make you special. It's that passion that's going to make you memorable. It's that passion that's going to make you in demand. And so living and dying in Brick City is part memoirs, part me sitting in the emergency department as an ER physician, saying to myself, what more can I do? What can I do to address some of these issues that exist in our community? Whether it's domestic violence, whether it's the challenge of exercise and obesity, and the freshman 15 is real. I fell victim to it, and thankfully I was able to lose some of it, not all of it. It's like, it's baby weight. I'm still working on it. But, it's real, it exists. Whether you're in control of your high blood pressure, your diabetes. We can talk about some of the other social issues, whether you believe in preventative screening. This is all messages and stories that I share in living and dying in Brick City. Hospital access, understanding your medical condition. Your health is so important to leave to chance. You have to be in control of your health. And then we can talk about the Affordable Care Act. We can split hairs on where does it lie. Is it something that's good? Is it something that's bad? But regardless if you're a fan or not a fan, we're paying for people without insurance now, today, with our tax dollars. So to have the Affordable Care Act, to have someone have an opportunity to have insurance, to go out there and take care of their medical ailments, to have, God forbid, some process in which you need insurance the most and you're dropped from your carrier, like, come on, are you kidding me? To be in a situation where you're the elder population, you worked all your life, and now because of the donut hole, you can't afford your prescription drug medication until you spend $4,000. That's when your donut hole sort of closed, and that's when the Medicare prescription plan kick in. I mean, for elder population on a budget, that's a lot of money. So to do away with that donut hole and to have health insurance and for parents to have your child covered up until age 26, with the plan. These are all wins. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things that need to be worked out with the Affordable Care Act. There's a lot of things and there's a lot of myths. But at the same time, I feel that when people have some form of identity of what they are and who they are, they feel more in control, and then we become a healthier nation. And so I know Sherry is going to speak about the Katrina and the catastrophe there. And then, the point that rings aloud to me is that the access to healthcare, and we see this happen, and the Katrina issue was a magnified situation, but I see where folks struggle every single day to get access to healthcare, where they come to the hospital, to the ER department, and use it as their primary care facility, and they say, well, doc, I can't get an appointment till 6 months from now. It reminds me of a story that I share in the book of Mr. Thomas, who, by the time I saw him, he had a terminal diagnosis of throat cancer. And so he said, I just didn't go to the doctor because, one, I didn't have insurance. Every time I went to the doctor, they spoke over my head. And finally, I'm here because my daughter made me come. And as I got the result of the CAT scan from his neck, it said necrotic lymph nodes, which essentially meant he had a terminal case that, it would be palliative care at this point. But it just reminded me of what can we do in order to prevent this from happening. So living and dying in Brick City brings out all these aspects and brings humanity. And it's good to be in a position now from where I grew up, where I understood dying more first, to be in a position where I understand living, and to be alive and living. And now to be in a position where I can go out and sort of encourage others and other students to not only go out there and make sure you finish college, and not only go out there and make sure you do well and excel, go after those degrees. Don't give up, because listen, if I can do it, you can do it. To meet Renita Oglesby, who I speak about in the book, and to see her as a med student, and to see her fail her first medical board, and she reached out to me, she emailed me. We met up at Robert Wood Johnson Library, and I gave her some strategies on how to take the test, and to see her excel and pass that test, and now to see her as a practicing physician in family practice. It shows me that this is not a story that's unique to me. This is a story that all our students can achieve. This is a story that they all can go on to be successful in life. This is a story about humanity. It doesn't matter where you come from, rich, poor, tall, short. It doesn't matter who you are. We all are going to have obstacles. At the end, when you fall, the most important part is that we give back up. And it's important for us as educators to galvanize and come together. There was the Dr. Linda Shees, there was the Carla Dixon, who stood by me, who helped me along the way, but there were also a professor or two who told me that you should consider changing your major. I don't understand. I'm graduating with honors. Why should I change my major? So the words that you speak out of your mouth can either destroy someone or implore someone. So let's continue to encourage each other. We're a great nation. We're a great nation, but we have to make sure we water the seeds so that they can blossom into something beautiful tomorrow. Thank you.